Welcome to the Scruffy City Aquatics live stream. I almost said for a second week in a row, but that would be a lie. Not true,
Yes.
but twice in a month. Baby
Yeah.
steps.
It's doing a lot better than we had been, so
Yeah,
progress.
twice in a month. That's pretty good. Or well, not in a month because our last one was in November, but
True.
in 30 days, in a month's time.
And I just got the live notification, so that should have gone out
Awesome.
to everybody. So hop on in
Awesome.
if you haven't.
Yeah, well, while people are coming, we will take a moment to thank everyone for those of you who are watching this live stream later, or maybe listening to
Mhm.
it in your car. We appreciate you listening or watching and commenting. Those comments are always great. I enjoy seeing those when people are watching it later and being
Mhm.
able to interact with those. So, for sure, if you are watching or listening on replay, drop a comment. Let me know.
Yeah. Thank y'all
Let us
for
know. Tanner checks it too.
yeah, I do. It's always awesome to see people come back and like actively, I don't know, just people actively seeking out to watch this. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. That's fun.
Yeah, we do have Scatty Nana and Nancy B in the house.
Yes.
Welcome to
Welcome.
the live stream. Our live streams, we're still adhering. We're still having them on our regular old school time.
Mhm.
Not exactly sure what we're going to do in the future, but yeah, right now we're trying this. Basketball season gets over. I don't know that Tuesdays will be bad for me. Um, Thankfully, we didn't have a game today, so I was able to make it. Muppet 929 and Darlene's tanks are here.
Darlings,
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank y'all.
Yeah,
Thank y'all for
lurking and
joining.
listening. Glad to see
Yeah.
you too. Skull Aquatics.
Yeah.
Scully's going to feed the dogs.
I just fed the cats right before this. Got red
Red
laser.
Laser. Yep.
Greetings.
Um, yeah, I fed the dog earlier. He's bound to start begging for food before it's over. I've switched over to fresh food from kibble.
Oh
I
yeah.
still give him some kibble, but um, switched mostly over to fresh food, and he is a little pig now. He wants to
Yeah,
eat
we
all the time.
we switched doing dinner time as fresh food as well, and it was like you knew it we feed it like 6:30, 7-ish. You
Yeah,
know when it's right that time they're sitting there looking. They're like looking
yeah,
at the pantry where we get the food out of and like just staring at you. And I'm like, give me just a second. Two
yeah,
minutes, 2 minutes. You'll get fed. But the fresh food makes they are voracious for it.
yeah. He was a grazer. I never could get him to eat, and he'd graze on it here or there throughout the day. And he was probably eating maybe 2/3 of what he should have been eating for his size, and he didn't eat.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't lacking energy or anything, but then yeah, we made that switch, and he was gobbling it up. And when we switched over to one meal where we were just doing the fresh food for the one meal, then he started wanting it for breakfast too. And then he started wanting it for lunch. And he will barely touch the kibble. The only way I can get him to eat kibble is if I ignore him because he begs for the other food.
That I feel like a lot of fish are the same way with live food. I'll feed
Oh,
them
I'm sure.
flake, and then all of a sudden I'll feed them a couple times a week. I'll feed a live food, and they just go
Yeah.
berserk over it. The difference is night and day.
It is. I have got to get a thing of baby brine going. I keep saying I need to start one, and all it is I got to mix up the salt water. I mean, I have no excuse. I mean, everything else is very convenient. I just need to mix up some salt water, and I'm sure I still have plenty of salt. I'm not low on salt yet. I am low. I'm not out.
I've
I
never
have
been a
got to go
fan of using brine or feeding brine shrimp. Not feeding them, but
hatching
hatching
them.
them. I'll buy them every now and again when I go to the store. I'm like, oh, cool. They're
Yeah,
like 25 cents a cup. But as
yeah,
far as hatching them, I prefer like the grindle worms or I don't know,
right.
they're just easier.
So I did not have a lot of success with the grindle worms. Of course, I ended up getting, I don't know, I had a plant bring in spider mites or something, and I think it got in my grindle
Uh,
worm culture. And then I did like the micro worms, but they just stunk.
Yeah.
Everybody in the room would complain when I'd open it up and be like, "It's just a minute, it'll be gone. It's just a minute."
I didn't like the micro worms either. Right now though, I've got some vinegar eels and I'm doing the
Yeah.
hyperdense cultures where it's similar to how you keep micro worms,
Okay.
but so far the apple cider vinegar seems to be the dominating
Yeah.
smell. It kind of keeps anything funky from growing.
I need to watch somebody feed that because I don't truly understand what you do. Because, I've seen these bottles with a cotton ball separating them or something, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so what do you do with that? You don't put apple cider vinegar in your tank, do you?
No, you
Because
can
above
add,
that is water,
yeah, you
right?
add the water to set, they'll come up into the water
Yeah.
and then you can suck off, like decant the water portion and feed that. But with the hyper dense ones, you can use like oatmeal and then put the vinegar in the oatmeal and then they'll grow like microworms. So you just kind of take, they climb the side of the container and you
Uh-huh.
just use a Q-tip or I use my finger and just
Right.
wipe them off and feed them.
So how long will a culture last before you have to start a new one?
The doing the bottles with just the vinegar and apple slices, I don't know because I've never restarted them, and I've had them for a couple months now, and they don't grow crazy fast, but they
Okay.
stay alive. The hyperdense, I just started those, so I started one of them November 17th, and I've read it's about a month, maybe. It depends.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. And so from one bottle, how much food do you actually get? How many, I mean, you've got what, 10-gallon tanks behind you. How many of those do you feed? Is it
So
everything
right No, right
once a
now
week?
I don't feed much of the vinegar eels just because I'm saving those for fry. So I've
Okay.
got one tank, this one here that you can't see because the dang light balance is so
Yeah.
bright. But I just had fry pop up actually right before this stream. I was sitting here doing water changes and I was like, "Oh, there's a fry in that tank." So I fed them some vinegar eels, and but as far as that, I'm just keeping them for fry, and I'll feed them to like the endlers. Sometimes they're really small.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
I'd like to try
all the
those. I
other
need to.
Yeah, they're good. All the other tanks get the grindle worms though because they're a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Well, I need to try to do that too. There's no reason why I can't do the grindle worms. But I want to try the vinegar eels. Cassandra tried to get me to try them, and I was like, I don't know, and I didn't do it. I should have. So that's something I'll do eventually. Maybe
Looks
we have
like
another live food um, t- uh, talk at the club and get people to bring some again.
Yeah, that would be great. We had a live food talk at in our club, the Music City Club. Mitch is talking about the East Tennessee Aquatic Association.
Hmm.
But we had a talk as well, and people brought like 15 different types of cultures. So right
Yeah.
now I've got four different cultures, and I've strategically tried to pick everything I think is the easiest. And
Yeah.
so far it's surviving. Like the peanut weevils I don't touch. I just pull little larvae from them, and there's like 1,000 beetles in there.
Uh,
But Stephen P's saying that their vinegar eel bottle is about a year and a half old and is just now starting to die out. So I guess they can last a
that's
good
pretty
amount of
good.
time.
Yeah, that's
But
pretty
also
good.
welcome Stephen P.
Yeah, I was going to
And
back up in the chat and start saying hello to some people because we've had some more come in. Jeff Kane has come in, and you just said Stephen P's here.
yep,
Craig's Catfish Cave is here. Scotty the Fish Freak is here. Let's see. Nano, the Nano Aquarium guy. I see you
yeah.
saying hello.
Zenny is here.
Zenny's here.
Welcome, Zenny.
Saints Dust Aquariums. Welcome.
Uh,
Peplin Creek
just
Aquatics. Good to see
yep.
you. Those Corys are still doing great. Loving them.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I love watching those guys. I have got to get the greens out of the 75. Nancy says, I like the microwaves, but too much upkeep. Micro worms, I'm guessing. I took the dense vinegar eel culture I bought at the club meeting and converted it back to traditional.
Yeah, the traditional is like the easiest. I've got 10 bottles sitting over here that I'm just like, I don't have to look at them.
I'm going to have to look
They're
into this a little bit more. I don't know the difference.
they're backups.
Yeah.
Difference between
The super and the regular, the dense and the regular.
I can grab them
Leaded
really
and unleaded.
fast if you want to
Yeah, I'll keep saying
catch up
hi.
with the chat.
Saints Dust Aquariums, I think I said hi. If not, hi. FishFam link is here. And if you did not know, go to fishfam.link and find out about all the great live streams and FishFam channels on the YouTubes. And yes, please give us that thumbs up. That'd be awesome. If you like it. If you don't like it, thumbs up still be awesome. Killer Kitty 08 is here. Good to see you.
All right.
Storm Rada's Legacy is here. Welcome to the live stream. There's his bootleg culture.
It does look it looks suspicious.
Uh-huh.
I've tried to take the label off, but I
What
can't
what do
get
you,
the
how
sticker.
much money you think we can get? $20, you take a drink. All
There's
right,
no
everybody
way
add to
I'm
the
taking a
chat.
drink.
Add to the chat.
But so this is the call it traditional method. I just use some people do 50/50 apple cider vinegar and water, and
Uh-huh.
I've just started doing 100% vinegar, and it seems to do just
Okay.
fine. But you can't see them, but the worms are all in here, and there's just a few apple slices at the bottom and a little paper towel to keep bugs out.
Bugs
But
out.
I'll stir them every now and again, but that's
So you don't have a cotton ball in
about it.
that.
No, I only do that when I'll only pour a little water in them when I'm trying to harvest.
So when you're getting ready to harvest, you put the cotton ball in it and then you pour the water on top of the cotton ball? Or do you have to do that?
You don't I haven't done it. I've primarily
Okay.
harvested from the hyperdents that I have, but if I do it from them, I just put a little water in top and they won't
Right.
they're different, densities, so they won't mix without like you actually
Shaking it up.
mixing it. So I
Yeah.
just pull the water off the top. And now this is the hyperdents that I have.
Oh, yeah, it's like micro
And
worms.
yeah, I don't know if you can see kind of those
Yep.
splotches on the side of the wall or the worms crawling up.
So is that oatmeal?
Yeah, I just use uh normal, you
Yeah.
know, no additive oatmeal and add apple cider vinegar till it's a little
To the oatmeal.
soupy.
Okay, and that's what you were saying. It mostly smelled like apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, like how the
Okay.
microworms kind of smell kind of yeasty and
Yeasty.
pretty
Yeah.
funky. These just
Very
smell like
funky.
apple cider vinegar because it keeps such a low
Okay.
pH that it's supposed to prevent bacteria from growing longer.
That would make sense. All right. I'm sold. I'm going to give that a try.
I can
Only
I'll bring you
Oscars
some.
is here. Okay. Only Oscars is here. I got to cut up that
Welcome.
Anubias, so I'll give you some more of that if you want it.
Yes. Love
It it
Anubias.
it is growing like crazy. It is 3/4 off of that piece of wood now.
Dang.
It is really loving the CO2. Killer Kitty's talking about the topic. We can't talk about the topic yet. We're not an hour. We're not a half an hour in.
We're not in the last 5 minutes of the stream. Previous streams, we had not even made it to the topic, and we're like, we'll get it next time.
We'll do it next time. Merrick is here. Merrick T, welcome. Killer Kitty, I will go back to your comment here in just a little bit. Trying to get to the end of saying hello to everybody.
Yeah.
Stephen P says, ooh, I do 50/50 and thought that was the common way. Not that I did research. I just followed the paper directions that came with my starter culture.
That's what I started doing too. the 50/50, but I read there's a Facebook group called Live Foods and Cultures, maybe, and the
Yeah,
guy, one of the guys who runs it is like a guru, a live food guru. I think his name's
yeah.
Paul. But I read his article on it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try that, and it seems to be working.
Steven said, if you can do full vinegar, what would even be the benefit of the 50/50? I never even thought about it. So that's a good question.
Yeah. Only
A
thing I can think of
rice.
is having to buy less vinegar.
Yeah, 50% less. All right. Killer Kitty said, I forgot I could do this, that I could put the comment up on the screen. I don't know if it's in topic, but I gotta have a lid. I run heaters, and in my head, it's like I agree. It's like leaving the
Yeah.
door open when it's cold outside. And that's true. There is truth to that. You are using more electricity if you do not have a lid. So that's what we're going to talk about with the topic is kind of the pros and cons. I will say
Mhm.
I have never kept a tank without a lid. I know Tanner has,
Yeah.
and so we'll talk about. I guess we'll talk about why I do it that way, and we can talk about why you sometimes don't. And then
Yeah.
we'll also talk about types of lids. So it's not a real in-depth conversation, but we definitely want to include you all in it. So we wanted to just, we were talking about it when we got off stream last time.
Hmm.
I don't remember what was said. I guess I was talking about the cost of starting a tank, and I said something about a lid, and you were like, "I don't do it. I don't. If I did a lid, I would do this." And I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess I could do that." But and I was like, "That's our next topic. That's what we should talk about."
Yeah.
Um, Zinni says maybe it doesn't smell as oh, that's not it. Maybe it doesn't smell as bad, or maybe for smaller tanks it avoids the messing with pH too much if you feed them
Hmm.
often. No, I could see that.
Yeah, I could too. Definitely could. Nancy B saying evaporation,
Yep.
especially right now with the heater running crazy in lidless tanks. Yeah,
Yep.
so I was very not against lids, but I was always like, oh, lids are, unless you have a fish that really jumps, lids are dumb. And I don't, I didn't want to fool with a lid. Is
Right.
is
Well,
is the
I
thing?
mean, a glass lid is expensive.
Yes,
You
I
can get
don't do glass
tank.
lids.
You can get the tank cheaper than you can get a glass lid.
Yep.
I mean, not for all sizes, but I mean, for a 10-gallon, the 10-gallon lid is like 20 or $30.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you can get a 10-gallon tank for $5 on Facebook.
Yep.
At least person that they don't have a $20 tank in hand.
So Nancy's
Uh,
also saying, without lids, where would we store our foods? Um, you could do like
yes.
me and put them on top of your lights,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Now
knock them into the tank when you hit move the light.
just make sure the lid is tight. Let's see. Scotty, oh, it keeps jumping on me. Scotty the fish freak told me all my killies will die instantly without a lid. And I think that's true. I've always heard killies are jumpers. Um,
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons I started using lids is I started keeping killies.
uh-huh.
Um, I got a pair of killies at the ETAA swap in, was that late October?
Yes. Early
Yes,
October.
early
No,
October.
no, you're right. It was late. It was right before Halloween.
Yeah. Um, so I bought a pair of killies there, and I was in Knoxville throughout the weekend. So at one point, I opened the bag and I was changing a little water out of it, and there was probably this much distance between the water and the top of the bag. Come back and I looked down in, there was only one fish. I was like, where did so started looking around, started moving the bags. It had jumped out. I plopped. It was a female. I
Oh,
plopped her
wow.
right back in and started swimming completely fine. But I was like, at that point, I was like, man, these guys can jump.
Yeah. They're pretty hardy though, right?
Yes, most species are.
Yeah. Scotty says we won't talk about how many I found dead on the floor. Sorry, I left that up a
Yeah.
long time. That was just shame.
We have all been there. Even if you have a lid,
Yeah.
some fish will find no matter a gap, no matter how small.
Yeah. When I moved and I was tearing down the 25 at the condo, I did a whole day of just the tank. And when I started that morning, I guess it was the night before. Apparently, I had left the lid off. And when I got everything out and I was moving the stand, I found somebody laying behind
Mm.
there. So that's the one time I had it happen that I know of. I'm sure it could have happened, and I don't know about it yet, especially having a dog.
All right, so Mitch, why would you have why would you have a lid on your
Yeah.
tank?
So my first tank, my 10-gallon, I bought a lid. Actually, my first one was a kit, so it had a lid, one of those black lids. But it wasn't long before I realized my lights were garbage. My little three LEDs, literal three LEDs that were in that thing,
Mm.
that I needed to upgrade that. And I bought a glass lid because it's the only thing I knew to do. At
Mhm.
that point, I was not so into the online community that I knew any different. So I did. I bought it. I may have even had to order it. I can't remember. But yeah, so I got that. And in time, in being online and hearing other people talk about no lids, because you see those rimless tanks and you don't want that water line when you have a rimless tank. I totally understand that. If I had a rimless tank, I would be trying to figure out a way to keep it without a lid.
Mhm.
But I am cheap and I only get rim tanks. So I'm fine with putting the water level up to up to the rim to where don't see the water level, and I think it looks great. So I don't have a problem with that. Um, the energy consumption is a big thing for me. Heaters are one of I'd say heaters go out more than anything else in the hobby as far as electronic devices that we use for our aquariums, and heaters
Mhm.
are not cheap, at least not for a decent one.
No.
I mean, even I think I used to have the glass aqueon
Yeah.
that came from PetSmart, and it burned out in no time. And that was when I started shopping at a local store, and they showed me it might be an Aqueon as well, but it's the black one. It's not glass. Um, and so I needed a second heater for the 75 because I run two smaller heaters. There's another topic, but I run two
Yeah.
smaller heaters instead of one big heater. And so I got that. Then I didn't have a spare heater, and this is completely has nothing to do with lids now. I had a spare, or I did not have a spare heater, and when my other heater went out, I tried to get another black one and couldn't. So now I'm mixed matched heaters again. Still, it drives me nuts because one is glass and one is the black heater. But anyway, um, I have a temperature controller. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is I do a lot to try and preserve my heaters. I have them set to where they have a huge variation in temperature within the range of the species that I keep, just because, I don't want them clicking on and off all the time. And without a lid does help with that temperature control. It does help conserve the temperature and hold heat in the tank, and it allows it to not use as much electricity. I mean, which I'm not as worried. I guess now I am more worried about how much electricity I'm using. But to me, it was more, I don't want to have to buy another $40 heater because it's clicking on and off all day.
Mhm.
So that's number two. That's probably the second reason why I continue to use them. Water evaporation, absolutely. In the 20-gallon betta tank, that is a lot warmer than my other tanks. I still have a lot of water evaporation, and it has a good tight lid. If I didn't have that, I can't imagine how often I'd have to add water, or because it's between water changes. I'm losing water with the lid. Um, and also for us, my family likes the home to be cool at night. And so having that little extra, it holding in that heat is also very beneficial all year round for us for that reason. And also, it is a place where I can stack things. That's not true. It should not be true. I really need to put a table next to it, but I mean, it's absolutely true. We all do it. If you have a lid, you put stuff on your lid, and there's always stuff on the lid. And every now and then I'll be like, oh, that looks horrible. I need to go clean everything off. And I'll clean everything off. And as soon as I feed again, there's something else on it.
Yep.
And it never fails. Now, can I get into the cons of the lid? Or do you want to talk about some pros?
Can I talk about some pros right
Do it.
after? There's a
Yeah.
couple things in the chat I saw.
Okay.
Let's see. I believe Scotty was asking if either of us are going to the Clash this coming year. I'm personally not sure.
When is that?
But I believe it's in September. Scotty, would you mind telling us the dates? Because I'm sure there's some other people here that may be interested that do not know the dates either. I think it's in September, right?
I feel like it is, but I won't say no, but I can't say yes yet.
I can't. I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
It's always on my calendar. It just September's a busy month for me always.
Yeah.
If it is in September, if it's not, definitely I'm a definite maybe. I know that's not a good answer, but
yeah.
And then Nancy was saying off topic with a laughing emoji. We're phenomenal at being off topic.
Yeah. I mean, that all the best conversations are off topic. I mean,
Oh,
the real
definitely.
meat of the live stream is whatever we get off talking about that's not in the description or on the thumbnail.
We're
I
just
do
trying to
the
keep you
opposite.
on your toes. Yeah.
Yeah. Saints Dust Aquarium says, I like lids. Oh, I guess I put it up there. Otherwise, I think I would have replaced my phone like 50 times. That's true. That's true.
I did have to replace my phone about a year ago because I dropped it in a bucket when I was doing a water change. It fell out of my
Yeah.
pocket, and I didn't realize until I looked down in the bucket and the screen was lit up.
Yeah.
And the screen completely went out.
Oh,
But
no.
okay, so
Jeff Kane brought up something else, though. More frog bit and duckweed slows evaporation. But that made me remember lids are not good for a lot of floating plants because of the
yeah,
condensation. So that's a good thing.
but I found duckweed is one of the more resilient
It is.
plants with condensation. You can completely submerge it and it'll still find a way to live.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's October 4th to the 6th is Clash this next year.
Okay.
So we'll definitely have to look into that. If you haven't been before, I know Mitch and I haven't, but it's I've heard it's a fantastic time. I've seen videos of it. It looks like a blast.
Yeah. We've talked about it. Definitely have talked about it.
Yeah. So getting into pros for why I have now started to use lids. Historically, I have not just because I didn't like fooling with them and I never saw a good reason. But after setting up these tanks in the basement, the number one reason I would say is heat retention because I do not the basement is unheated and I don't feel comfortable using space heaters. Just they make me a little nervous to be running constantly.
Yeah.
So I've got once I added the lid just to see. I was curious. I added the lid to a 10-gallon on one side, didn't have a lid on the other 10-gallon. The 10-gallon with the lid both did not have heaters. They stayed at the one with the lid was like 4 degrees warmer. So that was massive.
Yeah.
Because the basement will get fairly cold, and the tanks were getting down to 64-ish, and I mostly have started keeping species that can handle those cooler temps just because I'm not going to heat the basement. But still, I was getting a little worried. So having the lids definitely makes me feel a lot more comfortable as far as keeping the temps up in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 4 degrees is a big difference when you're talking 64 and 68.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And now I'm also running a dehumidifier in this room with the door closed. They're staying up to 72, 73, which I'm completely happy with.
Yep.
So number one, honestly, is heat retention. Um, Probably number two, following in that same sort of genre, is humidity. I
Yeah.
was real with having this many tank. This room is not much bigger than what you can see on the screen. So
Okay.
having this many tanks in here, the humidity was up to like 95%. And I was like, mold's gonna start growing everywhere. So I got a dehumidifier, but it was running constantly and not being able to get down to where I wanted it to. Threw the lids on, no problem.
Yeah.
I went from having the I can't run a line from the dehumidifier, but I was having to change the little half-gallon bucket on it twice a day. Now I can go up to 3 to 4 days without changing it. So
That's
that's
good.
massive.
Yeah.
Just as
Well,
far as cutting down on what I have to do daily.
yeah. And I was actually, it's funny. I was thinking about that today. I've talked about, um, I started doing pothos and different plants out the top of the
Hmm.
tank, of all the tanks now. And in that, it led to me buying some other house plants to the point that now I've got a little collection started of house
Yeah.
plants. And today, someone in one of the local houseplant um, groups on Facebook decided they were going to get rid of some things. They were going to downsize a little bit, and they were like, "Any newbies, you can pick one from this list, and you can just have it." And so I picked up a philodendron splendid from them today, and
Nice.
yeah, but it's been kept in a terrarium, and they were like, it will have some trouble if you can't keep,
Mm.
if you're not going to keep it in the same, it'll have to convert. So, find some way to keep it, give it moisture as you ease it out of that. And so I was thinking, ooh, if I had a tank without a lid on it, I'd
Yeah.
probably be okay. Maybe, and of course the tank near where I'm keeping it is the one with the Achilles in it. So I can't really do that. But it's funny though, I was thinking about that, and the humidity with that plant would be a good thing. So, um, in that instance, I don't know that it would be enough, but, especially, I mean, next to that betta tank, I bet it would be.
Yeah, I'd say so. Because I mean, it makes a pretty big difference.
Mhm.
Before I had the dehumidifier in, and it's got kind of it shows percent humidity,
Yeah,
and it's definitely not 100% accurate, but it was showing 90 something percent humidity when I first plugged it in,
yeah,
and I mean that's optimal mold conditions, and I was
right,
not wanting that at all.
yeah,
So started running it, and it was getting down to like 70-ish, which
yeah,
I was like, that's pretty high. I want it lower because I don't need a reason to have high humidity.
yeah,
So the lids definitely helped with that and the heat retention. So that was fantastic. And then another pro, like people were mentioning in the chat, it keeps your fish from jumping. And since I've started to keep killies, they are ridiculous jumpers. So that makes the world of difference just knowing
mhm,
I'm not going to wake up to fish on the floor.
yeah, yeah. It definitely is something that I never worry about.
Hmm.
Even to the point that sometimes when I have the lid off for too long, and I'm like, oh, I probably should check, because I just don't think about fish jumping out.
Right.
Um, hey, Merrick T is here. I just wanted to say hi. Saw them in the chat having some conversations and people saying hello. Um, and I was trying to see if there was anybody else, because we have 26 people in the chat. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Glad to have
Welcome.
you. It's great to be here and to have people in the
Hmm.
chat having conversations. I have not gone back and watched last week's chat. Have you heard about that?
I have not.
So last week I was going to try to do a live stream, and I scheduled it and everything, but there were some changes in my daughter's basketball schedule, and I ended up at the game past 9.
Mm.
And so I wasn't able to make it. And not only that, because I'd scheduled it, people came in and were waiting and everything. And I didn't I didn't think to check. And so they were all just kind of there hanging out. But apparently the conversation was real good and they didn't miss us at all. They don't need us.
We're just the droning voices, background voices.
Yeah.
That's funny. And last week, I will say I was the primary culprit in us not streaming. I was out of town for work.
Well, and but I
We
mean that game going along, I wouldn't have made it.
we've got Kalish as well. Welcome, Kalish. Thanks for joining us. And it looks like further up in the chat, Killer Kitty was asking if I use the water after my phone died in it. No, I did not, because I was doing a water change into that bucket. So the water did get used on plants, but not back into the tank. I don't know if anything would leach or anything. It wasn't in there
Yeah, I don't
long.
know.
So I wouldn't think so, but who knows?
Coral
So yeah,
Works is here. Good to see you.
welcome. Yeah, thanks for joining. So
And my
pros for
notifications
lids.
my notification was slow too. We were in a good few minutes before I got the notification.
Yeah. So pros for lids, I'm definitely on board with using them now. Not in every application, call it. If I don't have to use a lid, I
Yeah.
won't. But there definitely are a lot of pros to using them. I wouldn't. Yeah, on those rimless tanks, I if there was a good way to put a lid on them without making it look, ruining the look of the rimless tank, I would.
Right.
But man, the rimless tanks are nice. I think they should be
Yeah.
shown off.
So the tank in my oldest daughter's room that has the betta we saved, it is rimless on the top, but it still has seams, and it has a rim on the bottom. And so it's got one of those glass lids that just kind of sits there and has the
Yeah.
little arms or whatever that holds it, the little plastic pieces that holds it.
Oh, okay. I think it's probably one of those aqua top then.
I'm sure I'm sure it came from the aquarium. Everything in this I've seen at the aquarium, like it came with the fish. And it's the type that has the light in the base. So they had white gravel in there, and there was all kinds of algae in the gravel from those lights being on. And it didn't have an upper light, just lower light. But anyway, that looks horrible, and it's a pain. I don't like it. Like, it's such a pain. Anytime I go to feed, I have to move that glass lid, and I got wires coming out of it and air hoses and stuff, and it's always broken. I keep trying to yawn. I'm tired. I'm always tired.
I have one of the aqua tops that I got at Aquaticon from the aquascaping competition, and it's got the glass lid with black clips that go over the sides, and it is the biggest pain because it's heavy.
Yeah.
And there's no good way to grab it and pull it off because I've got my light sitting on top of it. So I always try and stick my thumb between the tank glass and the lid and pry it up and throw the food in there and then close it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, one thing I did do, like I said, it didn't have a light. So I got one of those clip LED lights. So it's not sitting on it. I can't quit yawning. Here, I'm going to get a good one out, and then I'll be right back. If I can remember how to stop the camera.
Mitch is getting sleepy on us, but there's still a few reasons why I would not use a lid, and I think one of those would just be, besides the aesthetics of it, is like we were just touching on. I don't like fooling with lids. I don't like having to take them off and move them, or they're just half the time I end up getting them kind of skewed and then knocking them in the water, and I'm like, this is just it's a pain dealing with them. And added to that, you have to clean them.
That's the one thing I was going to say. That is the one reason I have considered it before. Like, I've thought, maybe I don't want to deal with these things anymore because I have the glass hinged ones, which are heavy, and on the
Yep.
75, those things are sharp.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's not rounded at all. I've thought about sanding it. I never have done it. Um, but yeah, it's a pain to clean those. And especially since I use sponge filters in that tank, that bubbling,
Yep.
it's a pain for sure. Now,
It
I will say the side with the little uplift tube that Aquarium Co-op came out with has stayed clean since I cleaned it last. As and the other side has algae growing already, so that's definitely going to help with that. With it, shooting it across the top of the water.
definitely. Yeah, I was curious as to how that addition was working. I know we talked about it last
I really like
stream.
it. I mean, I feel like I feel like $6 is a little steep for it, considering the price of sponge filters.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's something that they've just come out with, and I know there's some R&D they put into it, and everything's expensive and crazy right now. So I don't know, $6 maybe that's an amazing price. Um, I will buy more. I do plan on ordering at least 3 more. I went to do it the other day and shipping is $10, and I'm
Ooh,
just
yeah.
cheap when it comes to shipping, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy $15 or $16 worth of stuff and then pay $10 in shipping. Maybe my local store can get it because my local store, sells Korean Co-op stuff.
Right.
So I'm going to check with them before I do that. But you know, I'm going to get them eventually. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I want to
Yeah.
put it in the 10-gallon and I want to put it in the 20 and I want to get rid of both those internal filters.
Still still yawning. But yeah, so back to the lids, cleaning them is the absolute worst. And when I worked at a local store, cleaning the saltwater tank lids
Ooh.
was probably the bane of my existence because of the salt creep would just
Mhm.
form a crust. And you'd have to take a razor blade and scrape it off, and it would take ages. But that's
My
probably a bit.
freshwater's like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've started to notice on some of the tanks, they definitely are starting to get that calcified
Oh yeah.
um look to them. And that's one other reason kind of coupled with cleaning is one, if you don't clean them, they start to, get um less transparent. And I think like Stephen P was saying earlier, he removes the black hinge on his
Yeah.
lids because it
I
blocks
was
the
looking for the
light.
answer. Yep.
Yeah, when they get dirty, it blocks so much more light, and even depending on which lid you have, they still block, you know, can block a decent bit of light. And for
Yeah.
people who love to grow their plants and want to get as much light on them as possible, especially if you're running CO2, then I'm not a fan.
Yeah. I want to know what he uses. Can you get clear ones? And
I wonder if you
Kalish
could.
mentioned that the co-op also has a minimum order now too, and I did see that. Which I know like they've said in the past, I think it's $30 as far as they're trying to be environmentally friendly and all that. Like they
Mm.
prefer people to do $30 orders. They won't not do less expensive orders, but they really tried to put a stop to people ordering like $5 at a time, 3 times in a month or stuff like that. But I think right now the minimum might be $20, like 19.99 or something.
Yeah, I remember it may have been a week ago or something. I was trying to order some sponge filters, and I only needed one or two, and it didn't hit the minimum. And I was like, well, I don't really need anything else, so I'll hold
Yeah.
off. Because I didn't need the sponge filters. I was just getting them for tanks I wanted to set up. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to check with the local store and see if they're going to get them, and if not, I'll pay it. That's fine. But I usually try to get more stuff. Anytime I order from the co-op, I try to get a few things. Um, so Stephen P says I take the hinge off and just flip the front glass lid over the light, or take it off completely when I
uh,
feed. That would make sense. That
Yeah, that
actually would
does.
probably be easier than what I'm doing because, as Steven knows, I put a second light on the 75. So I have the old light and the Aquarium Co-op light on there. Just like you said, trying to get the most out of it. And to raise my lid, I have to push the lights back and then
Yeah.
pull the lid forward as I open it. So I might as well undo the hinge and just take the whole panel out. The sharp glass panel that I'm always afraid is going to kill me one of these days. I mean,
Yeah, that's
slip in
another
some
thing
water.
with the glass lids, because I don't really actually I don't have a single. No, I have one glass lid. I take that back. The one I was talking about on the rimless tank. I don't like glass lids just because they are the less I have to move glass and deal with it,
Hmm.
the better. Because
Oh yeah,
I am very clumsy. I knock inadvertently bump into so many different things, and having
yeah,
glass in your hands is not something you want to bump in, bump into your stand with and break it.
yeah. So I'm going to go back to what Coral Works said here in just a moment. But before we do, where'd it go? You and I talked about this, and Scully brought it up. The
Yeah,
greenhouse panels let more light through than the glass, and Tanner has those.
right here. This is poorly cut, but this is what I use.
Yep.
The greenhouse, and it's fantastic. This stuff is the twin wall polycarbonate greenhouse panels, or sometimes you'll see them in like Lowe's or Home Depot is called like roofing panels,
Yeah.
but it's 40 less than $40 for a full like 6 or 8 foot sheet that's probably 3 foot wide.
Yeah.
And I've done every tank in here except for one, and I still have half the sheet left to do more tanks with.
So $40 did at least what, 5, 6 tanks? Or are there more tanks in
Uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
there? Okay.
9,
Yeah.
9 tanks.
Which would be about $20 a pop if you did glass lids.
Right. And some of them are, 2.5 gallons. So I'm
Yeah.
sure I don't want to be spending $15 for a
No.
lid like that big.
So, what are there any other advantages to those? I mean, Scully says it allows more light through. I mean, I often hear people say that they are greenhouse panels. People will use the stuff that's used in greenhouses. That's what Scully called them too, the greenhouse panels. Is it, how does it do um, with heat, keeping the heat in? I would think a greenhouse panel, it would be pretty decent.
Yeah, so I haven't measured the room temp, but I think the room temp, I haven't measured it today, but say the room temp's about 67-ish.
Hmm.
The tanks have been 71.
Okay.
Just from well, the dehumidifier heats up the room a bit during the day, which helps.
Right.
But they retain the heat longer, which is really nice because I have one tank with a heater in here. The rest of the tanks don't have heaters because I didn't want to spend that much on electricity to heat this many tanks.
Hmm.
And most of the fish I've been interested in recently don't need tropical warm
Right.
water. So they're perfectly happy in the low 70s, upper
Yeah.
60s. So it's been nice. It's helped me be a little because I've came down here. It's been last week before the week of Thanksgiving, week after Thanksgiving. It was what 24 and the low of 24 at night. The
Yeah.
tanks were still in the upper 60s, with the
That's cool.
basement being in the rest of the basement outside of this room being in the low 60s. So I was pretty happy.
Yeah. You talking about the species, that reminded me. I got to see um, my shiners today in the pond.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I don't get to see them very often. They stay hidden most of the time, but the sun was out today, so the water got a little warmer.
Yeah.
And I was outside doing something after dark, just a little bit past dusk, and I had a headlamp on, and so I looked over there, and there they were. So I got to watch them for a little while. And the rice fish, the rice fish are there too.
Yeah. I think Stephen P's talking about the polycarbonate, saying that he has one on a 40 breeder and he must have messed up cutting it because he doesn't like it. I messed up cutting it on one tank and it was too small, and
Oh,
I would knock it in constantly and I hated it then. But the ones that
yeah,
I cut more snug, I really like. And I've seen where some people take kind of like little cabinet knobs and will put on
yeah,
them so they can just lift them up, and I haven't done that yet, but that seems really, really nice.
yeah. You could even do those. What are the command strip things? They have the ones with the hook. You could use
Oh
that.
yeah,
That would be easy.
definitely. I think let's see. Kalish said the poly is sharp also. Yes, it is. I found that out the fun way.
Yeah.
Um, so that was enjoyable. It is very sharp. It's like cutting, that like thick plastic that some stuff will be packaged
Yep.
in that you have to cut. It's about as sharp as that.
Okay. Now, do you
So
just cut it with a utility knife, or can you take a pair of scissors through it, or what?
I haven't done scissors. I don't know if you could. I just used I marked it. I used a level as a straight edge, and then
Uh-huh.
used a box cutter or utility
Okay.
knife and basically scored it several times, then bent it, scored it, and then bent it and it snapped, and then cleaned up. Tried to clean up the edges. It's better if, so you see how it kind of has these
Hmm.
internal vertical members. If you
Yeah.
can, if it works out to where you can cut along one of those, it
Okay.
keeps it a lot cleaner. But as you can see, I didn't. I broke one side of the sheeting.
Yeah.
Um, but then something nice you can do, you can just make a real tiny notch for
Yeah.
your air. Like I run sponge filters on all these, so just a real tiny notch for the airline.
Yeah. Coralworks says you should check out the Swiss Tropicals cube filter and things. They make some really good quality air lifters and better sponge than any other U.S. retailer I am aware of.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned that on the last stream, and I was looking at their website. They've got some pretty cool stuff.
Mm,
Would definitely give them a try.
yeah. The hinge never lasts anyway. Might as well start out without
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Coro says they love, if you're looking for only sponge filters, try them out. I love them.
Oh, and Sketty Nona saying the clear Gorilla Tape works well for aquatic things, corners and edges.
Ooh.
That
Ooh.
is I have not thought about that. That is, I'm
Clear
gonna have to,
Gorilla Tape.
I'm gonna have to try that because that would be awesome.
Okay. Trying to catch up. I have
Yeah, it
one
keeps
40
jumping on me.
breeder.
I know I've missed a bunch.
Paul Sotero is here. Welcome, Paul.
Welcome, Paul.
Zenny says, I've replaced four glass lids because I have fat cats who like to fall or knock stuff down, and had wet cats in a couple of those circumstances. And thank goodness they never cut
Ah,
themselves. Yeah, that's one thing that I have been afraid of before, is breaking one. I know I don't remember who it was. Somebody mentioned breaking a bunch of them. That's would be a mess I don't want to deal with.
yeah, cleaning up glass is just not fun because you can never get all of it. It's like there's always a little piece hiding somewhere.
Yeah. Saints of Dust dropped a lid from a 75-gallon bow front.
Ooh.
Yeah, replaced it with plexiglass.
Yeah, that's plexiglass is another good option that I haven't done just because I don't have a good way of um, cutting it here. But
Yeah,
that plexiglass is definitely a good option.
I am going to check out that tape idea. Atkins Nature Aquariums, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. And then, yeah, Atkins is saying they like egg crate for a lid. That is, I like the egg crate. The only issue is I like to use the lids for my purpose down here is for heat retention,
Right. Egg crate
so
doesn't
it
do that.
wouldn't, and also keeping the killies from jumping, and they could, I would assume could pretty easily fit through
Get through.
the openings of egg crate.
Kayla says it cuts on a table saw, just sand the edge a bit. That's good. That's good to know. The
Yeah,
talking about
I
the garden, the
yeah,
greenhouse.
the greenhouse. I had seen some videos where people use table saws. I just don't have a table saw, and I didn't want to buy one just for this.
Yeah, and you know, I, as well as using it for the corners and the edges. I don't know if you said this, but what I thought of when you were talking about it was making a hinge out of it. Like, is it strong enough to tape two pieces of that glass together, or of what you have?
Oh,
Um,
I would say tape this together
yeah,
probably
and then you
pretty
would have a
easy.
little hinge,
Yeah.
but you could also
Huh.
tape around the edges so that it's not sharp.
That's smart.
Yeah, I like that. See, this is why we live stream.
Yeah, we get so many good ideas.
Yeah. Paul says, I have one without a lid. It's the unheated, filtered, planted bowl. The rest of my tanks are all heated, so they're covered. I have a polycarbonate lid on a 36 bow front. The glass lid for that tank is a lot of money. And that's definitely one of the things we've talked about. They can cost a pretty penny. Oh wait, Coral Work says I use clear self-sealing silicone tape and aquarium stuff too. So maybe that's what the Gorilla Tape is, self-sealing silicone tape. I will have to check that out. Killer Kitty says the thickest difference from PetSmart and Petco lids is ridiculous. PetSmarts are paper things and Petco is a chunk of glass. I, I've never bought one from Petco.
Yeah, I
I
haven't bought one from either.
Yeah, they're thin. Yeah, and talking about bow front lids, I'm sure are costly. Skating on it says they have one called Patch and Seal Waterproof Clear. There's also a crystal clear that's not waterproof,
Hmm.
but definitely resistant.
Yeah, I'll have to try that because that would be good to do the edges with this on the ones that didn't cut, exactly.
Hmm. Some are talking about how plexiglass can lose its can. I was going to say like rigidity. I, I don't know
Rigidity.
that rigidity is that correct.
Yeah.
And they can bow, and that is true.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't used plexiglass lids, but I've seen some tanks with them. They look good, but
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna stick with just because it's so light and easy to move, and so far it has not grown algae on it, which
yeah,
has been great. I know it definitely can, but I'm
yep.
holding out that it doesn't. Zenny says rigidiosity.
You never know what's going to come out. Um, Now, this was another good one. Skating on it says, I have some wire covers. I mean, just get the terrarium wire covers and throw them on there. And that's absolutely true. It would work for keeping fish from jumping out. And then Atkins Nature brings up, no, it doesn't help with evap, but it does help with evap cooling. And that's
Mm,
true. If you've got something that's not holding that heat in during the summertime, that can be a good thing because it helps keep the tank a little cooler than it might be have if you had a lid. Because think about it, if you've got a lid on a tank during the summer and it's real hot, um, and you've got a lid on the tank and you've got your heater's probably not running if you have one at all during the summer, but you've got some kind of motor filtering this tank that's moving and creating heat, and so it's adding some heat to it. And then with everything else going on, having the ability to having either a wire or egg crate or whatever it may be would allow you to keep your tank a little cooler. So that is a great point. I like it. I like how we're thinking. Rigidity.
yeah, that's something I hadn't accounted for as well, how the cooling occurs from evaporation. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a good point. Reducing evaporation and also retaining heat by keeping it in and not letting it evaporate out.
Right. Yep. All right. Well, it is 10 o'clock. I'm sure. I don't know. Is
It
Eric
is.
going live? I know
Um,
he went live 2 weeks ago. So, or no, he went live last week because I told everyone by the time I got home, you might as well just go to Eric's. And then I didn't make it. I planned on making it. But yeah, so fishfam.link, that's where you can find out where the next Fish Fam live stream will be. And yeah, we're going to go. Hopefully, we will be
yeah,
back soon. He is scheduled. Okay.
yeah, I just
Eric
saw that.
Wyrock.
Ooh, he said the stream topic for tonight is 2 long years. Come celebrate my L183 Plecos. Looks like he's got
Ooh,
some baby Plecos. That'll be awesome.
yeah.
So yeah, head over to if you're wanting some more fish conversation and hanging out with fish people, go see Eric. He's always got some awesome live streams.
Ask him if he knows what rigidity is.
Rigidividosity.
All right, everyone. Have a good evening
Yep.
and hope you enjoy your tanks.
Yep.
Thank
Bye,
you, everyone,
everybody.
for coming. It was awesome.
Mhm.